Hello, thank you for calling AIMM. This is Nurse Rob. How can I help you?
Hey there, Nurse Rob. This is Carl Bilson calling from the John, Paul, George, and Ringo law firm, calling about my heart catheterization. My doctor's office said you wouldn't authorize it. What's up?
Well, that's not entirely true, Carl. We wouldn't authorize the heart cath because there are other tests that should be run before resorting to such a procedure. The American Cardiology Society, which is what we consulted with based on your case, recommends performing a stress test echocardiogram with dye contrast before resorting to a heart catheterization.
Why are you telling me what to do? And why are you second-guessing my doctor, who's a well-respected cardiologist? I have a family history of heart disease, which is why he wants to do it.
Carl, we're merely following the best practice guidelines issued from the most respected governing body in your doctor's own specialty. Without other clinical evidence suggesting that your condition requires a heart cath, which requires anesthesia and running a wire up your femoral artery and into your heart, the ACS specifies the stress test. If the stress test does not rule in or out the diagnosis, the guidelines then recommend that you proceed to the more intrusive and rigorous heart catheterization. It's quite common for medical authorities such as the ACS to recommend a less intrusive procedure first, rather than subject a patient to a procedure requiring general anesthesia and/or a foreign object inserted into their circulatory system. If there is some information that you can think of that I'm missing that would cause your doctor to skip the stress test in favor of the heart catheterization, please share it with me.
Well, actually, there's none. This whole discussion and procedure arose because now I'm in my 30s. I'm concerned that I may be in line for some cardio event like my dad suffered.
Well, as a young man, then the stress test makes sense. Keep in mind, if there is an irregularity that is discovered, they'll likely schedule you for the heart cath. And while this procedure is done 99 times out of 100 with no problem, without medical evidence to suggest there is a concern, it really doesn't make sense to skip the stress test for someone with no current heart condition.
Just out of curiosity, what is the difference in price?
Well, the stress test with dye costs between $600 and $900, while the heart catheterization can cost as much as 10 grand.
Wow, that is a big difference. Does the doctor make more money for the heart cath than she does for the stress test?
I can't speak to that. The cost of the OR and facility will be pretty significant in the heart cath. The stress test is obviously less involved, which is probably why the American Cardiology Society recommends it's performed first.
Do you know what I do for a living, Nurse Rob?
No, what? But since you work for a law firm, are you a lawyer?
Yes, and ironically, I prosecute medical malpractice liability cases for a living. I see doctors like this, I represent doctors like this for a living. But when it came to my own health and when I heard AIMM wouldn't authorize my procedure, I wasn't looking at facts and evidence. I was upset, and I wanted to let you have a piece of my mind. The medical practice was annoyed, and we shared some choice words about AIMM and this whole second-guessing process. Why didn't my doctor share this stress test information with me before pursuing the heart catheterization?
That's hard to say, Carl, but it may be that they are used to a different system that really doesn't look at things as close as your plan does, as your employer has hired us to do. They're not used to having an active medical management team call on behalf or speak with them on behalf of a plan member. Some docs don't appreciate having their shoulders looked over or having their own rules read to them.
This makes sense now, Nurse Rob. If I need the heart cath, we can still get it done, and the plan will pay for it, right?
Absolutely. AIMM is not in a position to deny medically necessary care. But in this instance, there was no clinical data shared with us to suggest that the heart cath was required. There may come a day when you have greater needs than a stress test. Think of us as your personal team of nurses and physicians. We'll bring you the best practices and resources in medicine. We're not compensated based upon what care you have done or where it is done. We only want to ensure that you get the right care at the right time, in the right place, and for the right price. This is not just a slogan for us. We mean it.
I know. I've heard that before, but frankly, until I needed to call you, I was skeptical. I'm glad we had this chance to talk. I'm going to ask my doctor why she didn't recommend the stress test, and if she offers me some information we don't have now, I'll call you back. Otherwise, I expect you will be seeing a stress test authorization request coming to you soon.
Thanks. That's great, Carl. Call us anytime. We're here to help you with any medical condition.